Okay, I'm here with Speaker's Corner Steve. We're at London Bridge. We're going to do a demonstration to mark 2 weeks and a day since the last jihadist attack to take place in London. But Steve's got some information that's really been kept out of the public domain about another jihadi who's been treated literally with kid gloves at Speaker's Corner. So Steve, tell us about the gentleman that we've been talking about over the last few weeks and what the situation is and what his name is, who he is and what he's been up to.
Sure. Well, I guess it's good news on the face that it's one jihadi that's now been taken off the streets who's currently wallowing in Belmarsh. So he goes by the name of Abu Qasim, but we've learned his actual name is Mohammed Ahad. And he was on trial at the Old Bailey for over a year. His trial started in September 2018, and he was basically on trial for disseminating and spreading jihadi, ISIS supporting, terrorist supporting materials. So he was putting up online a guy called Sheikh Faisal, who's a guy who I think has been described as ISIS' biggest recruiter, who I believe he was extradited to America and he's currently in jail in America, I believe. But anyway, so our Speaker's Corner friend was posting all of his materials. He was transcribing it, he was distributing it, he was emailing it to his network, and he also had a terrorist manual as well. So that was another part of the trial. So the trial's been going on for a whole year. And there's two guys that were on trial, so he was just one of them. The other guy was from up north. The other guy was in custody, as far as I understand. Abu Qasim was out on bail throughout the entire year, and during that entire period of time, he was pretty much free to do what he wanted. What I've learned just before the trial concluded, that he was out under bail conditions, which included a curfew, which included weekly reporting to the police, but most interestingly included not going online, not using the internet. But we all know he's got his own YouTube channel, and he has been continually posting videos on YouTube of himself.
So he should have on that alone. He should have been.
He was absolutely. He was breaching his bail conditions. You know, do bail conditions have no validity now?
What was his connection with the supposedly moderate Dawa team at Speaker's Corner?
Well, I can remember this guy. This guy's been attending Speaker's Corner for a few years. I'd say at least half a dozen years, and certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, he's been one of the main guys with the camera equipment there, filming for the Dawa channel.
So that's Ali Dawa, Mohammed Hijab, those people.
Yeah.
So this guy is now a convicted terrorist.
Yep.
And he was doing camera work on a regular basis for Ali Dawa and
absolutely. So he would frequently be setting up his tripod with his camera. He'd have Bluetooth mics that he would clip on, the likes of Adnan Rashid, Ali Dawa, etc. And then they would stand and perform for his camera, for his YouTube channel. Now, of course, now he's been found guilty, they're all rapidly trying to disassociate them from him. But if we knew about it, I think there's a big question: did they not know about it?
Yeah.
And if they, surely they should have. And they were clearly with him. They'd frequently arrive with him. They'd leave the corner with him. They'd go for a meal after Speaker's Corner on a Sunday with him. So, from the outside observer, he appeared a complete entwined individual with the Dawa teams at Speaker's Corner.
That's really it feeds into really the question that we're going to ask today when we stand on the bridge is why do jihadists want to kill us? And to me, what that is clear evidence of is the fact that when you start to really unpack Islam as an ideology and as a religion, you find out that one of its key component parts is jihad. So it's not surprising that people that were involved in Islamic mission Dawa are also involved in jihad, because these are facets or doctrines of the Islamic religion, and they're being, the guy that killed people on London Bridge, there's I'm not sure whether it's video or text evidence of him saying, well, I want to learn more about Islam so I can be a better Muslim. Well, in my opinion, he became a better Muslim, because that's what Muslims do when they take the religion
Abu
seriously.
Qasim, also there's video evidence that he was part of Anjem Chowdhury's clan. There were multiple videos still out online where he's standing alongside Anjem Chowdhury on their Islamic Dawa stalls that they used to do around London, giving out leaflets, praying behind Anjem Chowdhury. So he was yet another adherent of Anjem Chowdhury. And the police have told me there are 18 former members of Anjem Chowdhury's group who are all banned from Speaker's Corner. That just begs me the question again: why is this one been allowed to merrily come along to Speaker's Corner
I mean,
for
that's
years.
another question about how much the security service and the police are sort of colluding with these people to get information and to treat them maybe as agents or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why these guys are allowed to prowl about, because there's more going on than we
Yeah.
are aware
Yeah.
of. And I'm not saying that this gentleman was or any of them are.
Well,
but it would be beyond credulity to believe that the police and the security services are not recruiting these people and using them as agents. And then of course the problem comes when the jihadi bomb goes off in their brain and they decide they want to start chopping people up with knives and murdering innocent people.
Yeah.
The police and the security service are in a situation that they can't deal with.
And that's the risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the question that I've been asking. Either it's gross incompetence by the police and the authorities, or are these individuals working for them, knowingly or unknowingly, I guess. But as you said, that's the risk, because are they literally watching them all 24/7 to know, as you said, when that thing?
It's impossible to do that because there's so many of them.
Well, exactly.
Because if we're talking 23,000 suspects and 3,000 active jihadists, the security service and the police, the MI5, they do not have the capability to watch all those people all the time. So what they've got to do their job, they've got to recruit informants, they've got to recruit agents, and if they get that process wrong and the people they've recruited turn out to be not genuinely recruited,
well, exactly.
You've got a problem.
And even if you take the lower numbers at 3,000, that they say are like more serious. I mean, even to keep under surveillance 24/7, 3,000 people, that is going to be one hell of a massive resource.
Huge.
Just to do that.
Well, I mean, if we think that when the troubles were happening in Northern Ireland, there was probably only ever 200-300 active terrorists who were actually targeting and killing people and carrying out attacks. So we're talking a couple of hundred there that were obviously under very close surveillance, and even then it wasn't possible to prevent every single attack. When you've got 3,000,
Yeah.
it's the resources that you would need.
Yeah.
Just obviously.
And as I say, we're standing just around the corner from London Bridge. It was London Bridge where a previous regular attender, Karen Butt used to regularly attend Speaker's Corner, and he went on to commit atrocities just around the corner from where we are now. So, and that has always been my concern, that Speaker's Corner has, at least in recent years, been used by these vile extremist people as a place to come and network, literally, to come and gather.
Not even just in recent years. I mean, you've been there for a long time. People like Jay Smith were opposing these guys for a long time as well. And I remember hearing about this in the 90s, reading about this in the Independent in the 90s, that Speaker's Corner had become a hotbed of jihadism and of Islamism in the 1990s. So this has been going on a lot. Do you think it's getting worse, Steve, as Speakers, or is it getting better?
Well, it certainly got worse, and it had got better.
We got better as a result of Tommy coming and us
Well,
coming.
over the last
visits that we paid.
over the last year and a half, it had got better. But I think there's always potential for it to not be better. And there's been a few things recently, not least what we're talking about now.
Do you think there's an active threat to people like yourself when you're there, or do you think you feel safe there, or do you think there's a danger that you guys could actually be targeted while you're there? Do you think that's... It depends.
People are always asking me that and saying that to me. It doesn't stop me going.
Absolutely.
It's not something that I lie in bed thinking about, to be honest.
Likewise.
We can't be cowards.
No, absolutely.
We've got to keep going. And I'm sure there are people out there that would say, he's worthy of attack.
How much do you think the Islamist threat and the Islamic apologists are affecting freedom of speech in the United Kingdom, with the talk of Islamophobia, the fear of triggering jihadists? How much do you think that's actually affecting government policy and actually the way that we can express ourselves in the UK?
I suppose starting on Speaker's Corner first, I think 2 years ago that was the absolute threat, because we had a big, a significant number of Muslim extremists who were coming to Speaker's Corner regularly, who were bullying and intimidating anyone that said anything against Islam, and it wasn't extremism or far far right or anything. It was literally, the likes of Jay Smith, the likes of Hatton, people that are,
wouldn't harm a fly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have beliefs that I don't agree with,
sure,
but I can well appreciate they are harmless people. They pose no threat to anyone.
Exactly.
Yet the likes of those people were and have continued to be easy targets and to be harassed and to be bullied and to be intimidated through aggressive behaviour and on occasion physical violence as well. So that's what happened at Speaker's Corner, but I think there was a pushback, and I think they've been on the back foot since. So
do you think those instances where, I mean, it was great to see Jewish people and Hindus and Sikhs and Christians and atheists and all the sort of cross section of multicultural Britain.
It was a complete
Islamists.
cross section on sexual orientation, on trans people, on Sikh people, on Jewish people, black people, white people, Asian people. The most diverse group of people coming together and saying, we will not be intimidated, we will not be bullied. This is not going to be a Sharia corner of Hyde Park where you bully and control what is said. So that's what I say about Speaker's Corner. But in terms of the wider country, there are, I'd say there is not dissimilar pressure at a national level to say, if you criticise, if you critique, if you are negative, let alone ridicule or lampoon a certain religion, there are those that are trying from a legal perspective to prevent that. Only one group. We can lampoon, we can ridicule, we can criticise other groups, other philosophies, other ideologies, but there is one group who you cannot. And I think there's always a threat there that our freedom of speech will be impacted by those people who don't want their precise ideology, faith, religion, criticised, ridiculed or lampooned.
And I mean, that's the thing. I think this is the very real danger with the whole idea of Islamophobia. That of course it would be wrong to pick on Muslims as a group of people, because that would be bigotry and hatred, and that would be wrong. The same would be wrong to pick on atheists or Christians or Jews or whatever.
Yeah.
However, it's quite right for you to critique Christianity, any other religion that you want to pick on, Islam, and to be consistent, you've got to, as an atheist, you've got to critique all religions. You can't just critique one, you've got to critique them all. If we're theists and if we believe in God, it's quite right for us to argue back and say, well, this is why we believe that. But it's totally wrong to curtail anybody's right to do that in a free and supposedly liberal democracy. And this is the problem with Islamophobia. The phrase in the definition that thankfully they tried to get through Parliament and didn't. That if you insult Muslimness or something like that was part of the document, which includes believing in Islam, believing in the text, and so on and so forth. So that's where the problem comes. If we're not allowed to critique the texts, then we're in a situation where freedom's gone. What we're going to do today when we're on London Bridge, we're going to stand there with a big banner that just asks the question, why do jihadists do what they do? There's a text from the Quran, I think it's Surah 8:14, and there's a text from the Hadith, quote allegedly the sayings of Muhammad, and then it just says because the prophet, you're profiting, or they're profiting their scriptures tell them to, and we'll see what happens. Because the police are going to be there, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see what comes of it, and we'll see what sort of blowback we get from just standing there with a banner that critiques and actually identifies why people are doing it. Because I think one of the problems is we're in a situation now where nobody will talk about why jihadis are doing what they're doing. And it's very clear why they're doing it, because they believe that Allah is telling them to go and kill the infidel.
Yes, I mean, clearly the individuals that are doing it, that is their thought process. They believe, which is why, the screams of Allahu Akbar as they go on their way. That is unquestionable. Now, of course, we're not saying all Muslims have that same view or have that same interpretation or use their religious texts to do such awful, heinous deeds. But those that do are doing it in the name of their religion, and you cannot separate the two.
And what we've got to do at least is have a discussion about that. And I like what Lord Pearson says when Lord Pearson says, let's talk about Islam, and all he's saying is, let's talk about what's in these texts. Is this the inspiration behind what these guys are doing? I mean, I think even Inspector Clouseau could get this right, that it absolutely is the inspiration for why they're doing what they're doing. But it seems our police, our media, our government, and our establishment cannot connect the dots on that, which I find very worrying.
And I also think it's we have to say it, even though people criticise it. It's the way the wider Muslim community responds to these moments. Because again, comparing it to the Speaker's Corner, Abu Qasim, there are vast tracts of regular Muslims, Dawah teams at Speaker's Corner, who all they seem to want to have done over the last 6 months is deny. He's not a terrorist, you're making it up, you're an Islamophobe, etc. So all the normal nonsense. And then when he finally comes to the point of being convicted, there are still people out there who are denying it and saying, he's still innocent. But there are also others who are now trying to throw mud at me and at others, rather than just show one iota of humility and say, do you know what, you're right, Steve, don't agree with you on lots of things, but you're right, this guy was an evil man, he's misinterpreted the Quran, he's now in jail, that's where he deserves to be. But that's not where their focus is at all, it's just throwing muck out.
I found two things very disturbing about the recent attack. First of all, what we used to get when there was a terrorist attack that was quite obviously inspired by Islamic scriptures, and again, we're not saying all Muslims are terrorists, we're saying it is a valid interpretation that some jihadis take on board and say that means I can go and stab innocent people in the street. They can give scripture verses and Islamic scholars who will back up what they say. What used to happen was the Muslim community would come out and say this has nothing to do with Islam. That hasn't happened. I haven't heard one Muslim scholar come out and speak against this, which I find very disturbing. The other thing I find disturbing is how quickly it disappeared from the consciousness of our government, of our establishment.
We've become blasé to it, haven't we? It's just, it's another one.
Two young people, now that whether they were misguided in what they were trying to do, they were trying to help people. They believed they were doing the right thing. They were trying to help criminals rehabilitate. They were at a seminar and they were stabbed to death by someone who did it because he believed his religion told him to. That discussion hasn't been had. Those people's lives have been used as capital for political parties on all sides. And the other thing is that the wider patriot movement seems to be doing absolutely nothing about it. I mean, you think about 2017, October 17, after Ariana Grande Borough Market, we had 70,000 people gathered in London, football fans, veterans, normal members of the public, and now we've got maybe 10 people coming to demonstrations. There's something, it's like you say, we've got blasé about it, and it's just another jihadi attack. What do they have to do? Does it have to be a score? Does it have to be a score over 10 before people start taking notice?
Unfortunately, I think it does. I think, just taking out one or two people, murdering one or two people doesn't get the reaction now. We've become blasé, apathetic to it, and I think, awful thing to say, but it'll take something bigger to get en masse reaction to it, because it's kind of, we've accepted it now. And I know people...
And we must never accept the unacceptable.
No, of course.
It's never acceptable to stab two young people that are going about their daily business because of a religious ideology. That is never, ever okay to do that. It's totally unacceptable, and we've got to say that, but we've got to put the axe to the root, and we've got to look into those scriptures, we've got to look at those verses and say, this is why they say they do it. What is the Muslim community going to do about those verses in the Quran and the Hadith? Will you disavow those verses? Will you take those verses out of your Quran and burn them? Will you take those verses out of your Quran and chop them into little bits and scatter them like confetti?
But there are verses in the Bible which aren't too great.
The point is, Steve, that now we've been through the Reformation.
But in terms of the script, you haven't deleted or redacted bits of the...
You haven't. But what you've got with the difference, I guess, between Islam and Christianity is that, to all intents and purposes, even though no one will admit this openly, there is abrogation in Christianity. The New Testament supersedes the Old Testament. Nobody's wanting to go into, like Joshua, into the Promised Land and kill everybody that has breath. That's not happening in the New Testament. Whereas in Islam, the reason that Islam is so dangerous and so unstable is that the abrogation goes the other way. That the Meccan verses, which seem to be peaceful, are abrogated by the Medinan ones that are warlike and inciting violence and so on and so forth. So we're left with an open-ended text that can be quite rightly interpreted to inspire people to carry out heinous acts. So that I think that differential has to be called out, has to be highlighted. That yes, there certainly are problematic texts in the Bible. If the Bible was interpreted in the same way the Quran is, the Bible shouldn't be interpreted in that way, and there's no reason to
and what Islam has not had is a reformation. Clearly, it's not had a reformation, and there is no form of global agreement. There is no form of global leadership. The more I don't know if this is the right word, but for want of a better word, modernising. The more modernising voices of Islam seem to be very quiet,
and easily
because they're intimidated with death. Exactly.
If you challenge the prevailing thought, the prevailing thrust of what is going on there, you can get yourself into very, very hot water.
But I know often Muslim responses to hearing conversations like this is, why should I as a Muslim have to apologise for every Muslim terrorist attack or whatever? Well, but if I had a faith or an ideology and someone was committing heinous crime in the name of my faith or my ideology, surely to goodness I'd want to do everything in my power and control to speak out against that, to put over the message that no, not in my name, that's not the right interpretation.
It's a very interesting question, Stephen, and I think I take this back to Northern Ireland. What we had in Northern Ireland, when the Troubles were in Northern Ireland, it appeared that it had a religious veneer about it. What actually happened was, when the people who were involved in terrorism became religious, became either devout Catholics or evangelical Christians, they actually stopped doing what they did, apart from in very, very rare occasions. They stopped being terrorists, they turned their lives around, and they stopped committing heinous acts of terrorism. So I think, whereas in Islam it seems the opposite way, when people become more religious and more observant, that they become more dangerous. And I think that's another, again, I mean, these are big conversations that we're not going to sort out in the pub over a whiskey and a beer, but hey, cheers.
Cheers.
So we're going to go and do a demo. We're going to go and stand with our banner at London Bridge, and we're gonna have a vigil, really, to mark the deaths of those innocent people that were killed, but also to ask the question, why do jihadists want to kill us? So we'll see you all at London Bridge in a couple of minutes. Thanks, Steve.